Python has a built-in playground, but you're probably not using it. If you open a terminal on your computer and let's say you maximize the window, you can start this interactive terminal by typing Python 3 or Python and pressing enter. Then you get this output. You see these 3 arrows here, and here you can type Python code, Python single lines of Python. For example, we can type print hello world, and it instantly outputs that. So you can do all kinds of things with text, for example, hello, and we can call the upper function. And note that we are not writing a complete program here. We just write single lines of Python. So this is called the interactive shell. You can type any kind of Python code here, and it will instantly execute that. And this supports all Python. So we can use things like variables. So if you want to store data, let's say x is 3 and y is 8, we can do mathematics with that. So x plus y or x divided by y. You can also use these mathematics directly. So if you say 1 plus 2 or 9 times 7, and you'll see it outputs that directly into the terminal output with Python without having to write a complete program. So you can write any lines of code and it will instantly be executed. It just won't remember them, right? We're not saving it into a file, we're just typing those commands. For example, we can import modules. Let's say we can import the math module. And now you can use all kinds of math functions. We can list them if we type dir directory and then the module name, press enter, and you'll see all the functions we can use. So we have the cosine function here and many other functions. For example, we have this square root function here. And if we want to use it, we type the math dot and then the name of the function, in this case the function square root, and then the parameter. So this can, for example, be 9. And it will output the result. So we call the function square root in the module math, and then we specify the parameter, in this case 9, between those curly brackets. And in Python is very important, the type of brackets, so you want to use the curly brackets for a function. We press enter, we'll see it outputs 3, so that's working. We can use any of these functions, so let's say we use this cosine function, and you see it outputs the result. Now we are not limited to this math module. We can import all kinds of modules depending on which are installed on your project or on your system. For example, on this system I have the module emoji installed, and I can then use that module to print emojis like snake or fire. If I press enter, you see I'm seeing those emojis in the terminal. Now there are all kinds of Python modules, and these Python modules, they have many functions. In this case, you have the function emojize in the module emoji. There's the module cowsay. Let's say import cowsay, which is a module. We can say cowsay.cow and then hello, and it simply outputs the cow saying hello, right? So there's a lot of silly modules, but of course there's also many useful modules to work with databases, networking, and so on. But this is just to demonstrate that you can use modules directly in the Python interactive shell. So this Python shell, it has some cool features as well. Let's say you type some commands here. Let's say print hello. So some totally random commands. Let's say we can go back and forth to these commands with the up and down arrow. So using the up arrow, you can go back in the history, and using the down key, you can go back and forth between the commands you typed before. Now to exit this Python shell, because we are not in the Mac shell or the Linux shell or the Windows shell, we can type exit with these parentheses and press enter, and you'll see we are instantly back in the Mac shell. Now another way to do this is hold the Control key and press D. So hold the Control key and press D, and you'll see it also jumps back to the regular computer system from the Python interactive shell. And you can recognize the difference between some line like this and those 3 arrows. If you see those 3 arrows, you are in the Python shell. Otherwise, you are in the computer shell. You might wonder when to use which. We have this Python shell, and we also have a Python IDE, a programming environment. This one uses files. You see here hello.py, and we have some program, and we can then run it with a single click. This is called PyCharm. It's a programming IDE. There are many different IDEs, which are full programming environments. And you have this interactive shell, where you can type single commands like x is 3, print x, or whatever code you want to type. So when do you use which, right? So this is the Python shell. This is the Python IDE, the development environment, or like the full programming environment. And you might wonder, when do you use this interactive shell, when the IDE? So the difference here is that in this IDE, in this interactive shell, everything you type is instantly forgotten, right? Like you have some memory here, but you cannot pass this program to another computer. It is just commands that you type in this computer, and they're instantly forgotten once you, for example, close the program. Or if you restart your computer, or if you're on another computer, you can't fully pass around the program. They're just commands, right? Or so-called statements. You can type all kinds of statements, but everything is instantly forgotten. For example, if you open this Python shell on another computer, you don't have this program, this print hello, or if we type something longer. With the Python development environments, you can type full programs, in this case hello.py, which are just files on the computer, right? So this is a file on the computer, and you can add multiple files in a programming environment like this. Let's say we add another one, example.py, and we print example1. You see, we can run it. You can have multiple programs, and we can pass these programs to other people. So that is the main difference between this interactive shell and the full programming environment. Now, keep in mind, if you have programs, you can also run them directly from the terminal. So if you have some Python program like hello.py, you can also run them directly from the terminal. So there's basically three ways to run them. You have this interactive shell, which is the one we have been showing in this video, where you can type the commands, but the program is forgotten, right? It's just Python commands. You can run any .py file using a command like this, python3 followed by the name, or you can use a full Python programming environment like PyCharm, where you can then run the complete programs, and this can get very complicated. You have all kinds of features here, like the coloring, searching, and so on. It's a very heavy program. Or you can use something more basic, like a Python shell, or simply running a Python file directly, depending on what you prefer when you're programming Python. Now, there is another interactive shell called IPython. This isn't installed by default. You would have to install the IPython, so pip install IPython on your computer. And the IPython is like the interactive shell, but it has some additional features. So if I start IPython, I can type commands like always, but as you already see, there's colors here. We say, for example, print hello world. You'll see we got syntax highlighting, so the functions are printed in green, and the parameter here is in yellow. Or if we do it with some numbers, a print 3 and 4, you'll see it uses syntax highlighting. It uses different colors for different things. So functions here are in green, text is in yellow, and these numbers are in light green. So that's one of the features of this IPython. We can use the arrow keys, and you'll see we have the same history as before, but now with a nice coloring. And for example, we have here x is 3, and let's say we print x, it works just the same. IPython has some additional magic thing going on. So if we use this percentage sign, we can use some additional things. For example, we can check the history, percentage sign history, with this magic commands. Now we don't have any history, we just started IPython. Let's say we print something, and then we check the history. You'll see the history of the entire things we used in this session. Now, you can also run system commands, so you don't have to exit IPython in order to run commands on the computer. For example, if I do a percentage sign and I type this command, that's a Mac command or a Linux command, and you'll see it doesn't like that command, so let's try the pwd command. And you'll see I'm on the Mac in the folder user Frank. You can list files and folders. So these are the typical Linux or Unix commands. So you can use that as well from the Python shell. You don't have to exit the Python shell to use that. Now, we can write to a file as well. So the write file, and let's say example.py. We can write something, print example, and print hello world or whatever. And then now it wrote that example.py, so it should be on our computer. Let's exit this IPython shell, and let's try to run it, python3 example.py, and you see it run the program. It should have written this to the file. We can look at the file. Say we look inside the file, and you'll see it's written. So using this magic command with percentage sign, that's a feature in IPython that can be very useful as well. You can also run programs directly inside IPython. So that's a little trick that exists. For example, percentage run, and then we run the file example.py. Notice we're in IPython. You see these green letters here, and it instantly runs. We can do this for any file on the computer, hello.py. So in order to run Python files, we don't even have to exit IPython. So whichever way you prefer to do programming, it's possible to use IPython or the Python interactive shell or an IDE like PyCharm. Main difference between these interactive shells is that they don't remember files. However, you can do, for small programs, you can do something like write file with some file name and then write it to the file. Or if you work on a large project and you have many files, you might want to switch to an IDE, a programming environment like this, where you can easily switch between files, add new files, search in files, install modules, and so on.